Quiet week in Warhammer this week. Looks like I've got to go back to Reddit. Hi there, welcome to Hellstormwargaming. My name's Mikey, and I'm going to be your coffee buddy for today. So grab a brew and let's chat about Tabletop Simulator. And if it's not welcome back, then do consider subscribing so next time it is, because that's really cool. Lately, I've been streaming more and more on Twitch. I always stream every single Monday evening at 6 PM GMT, where I stream my hobby with Jay from Mohawk Miniatures. But lately, I've been streaming video games. Why is it that all Warhammer content creators, if they want to start playing video games, they just end up playing like Warhammer video games, like Space Marine or Dawn of War? Like I'm a big fan of these games, don't get me wrong, but like, dudes, come on, you can play other games. Anyways, you can find me live on twitch.tv/Hellstormwargaming. I'm going to be live today at 2 PM GMT, and we're going to be streaming more of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Weak point smash! Oh, that did stuff to my crotch, I guess. The reason I'm streaming video games is because the lack of battle reports that I can actually film these days. Obviously, with the worldwide pandemic that's happening, that's really hitting the UK really hard, and that's a whole other conversation that I really don't want to have. It's been causing issues for everyone in the world for like 12 months now, and it really causes us an issue. And we've just not been able to film as consistently as we like. We will do when we can, but at the minute we just can't. This has led to a bunch of people suggesting that I stream or film TTS, or Tabletop Simulator, and streaming those games instead of like normal games of Warhammer. Tabletop Simulator, for those who don't know, is essentially like a game that's available on the PC or on Steam, and it's kind of like a virtual version of like board games such as chess, drafts, and stuff like that. It was designed for playing board games online with your friends, but over the past year it's seen a massive surge in popularity in the wargaming community, especially for Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar. It's always been a thing, but it's definitely like way more popular now, with the increase in support in terms of mods, which allow you to import 3D models of armies or terrain or boards and stuff like that. And generally just getting better and better at being able to play a virtual game of Warhammer, 40k, Age of Sigmar, or any other game that you can think of, really. If someone's made a mod for it, you can play it. It's kind of always been around, but with more and more people in lockdown and like the light at the end of the pandemic just like seeming to always just be just out of grasp these days, more and more people are turning to Tabletop Simulator to get their like fill of Warhammer, because they can't get it anywhere else. There was an interesting debate on r/Warhammer Competitve. Man, that place really helps out when I'm struggling for ideas. So there was this post that was posted by user Grey40k a couple of days ago, and the post was, this has been a question that's popped up now and then, but after this almost full year of pandemic, TTS has ceased to be a cool niche alternative and has become a mainstream option for competitive play. It's obviously good and bad things, some of them related to the fact that it's essentially a mod. However, it does have some strong advantages. There being no entry cost to play in a new army, meaning every person can build the dream competitive list. As you download the models you need to play with, there's no like, you don't have to buy models, you don't have to build models or paint models, you just download the models you need and just play with them there and then. A new book could come out at 10 AM, you quickly read the book, at 10:05, you could build your new army there and then. It also has a wide international player base because it's an online game. It's obviously, you're not limited by geographically where you live or the time zone. You are only limited by who wants to play at that one time and what time you want to play. You can practice or play game with someone from the other side of the world, and you can essentially play any competitive player there is anywhere if they're free to play. And these 2 points that are brought up in the initial post I like strongly agree with, and is probably why Tabletop Simulator is a good alternative to Warhammer. But I don't want to say that and then not come back with the alternate arguments, which some I agree with and some like I highly disagree with. And this isn't a video that's me saying, oh, you should all go out and play Tabletop Simulator. It's an analysis on what's happening in the world. So let's look more into it. Whilst I don't personally endorse Tabletop Simulator as a direct replacement to Warhammer, some of the points raised do have some weight to them, and some of the counterpoints that are raised also have some weight to them. But on either side, there's also some really funny points that don't have any weight to them at all, but people, when they say them, think they do. If everyone plays TTS, then Warhammer will die. Yes, kind of. The only person who makes money from Tabletop Simulator is the person or the company that made Tabletop Simulator. There's no feedback in terms of monetary feedback to Games Workshop. The only way there is feedback in terms of this is if the people who are playing it are actually going out and buying physical codexes, which, let's be real, they likely aren't. They're just using Battlescribe for rules, etc., or what they can find online. So There's no real money that's going back to Games Workshop because Games Workshop is a company that sells rules and it sells models, and that's how it generates money. It generates money in lots of ways, but they're like, you know, the two fundamentals. So the only people that really benefit from people playing on Tabletop Simulator is the company that made Tabletop Simulator, because you're buying it from them, and the people who made the mods who are getting like an upvote or whatever it is on Steam Workshop. Which long term, if TTS's popularity kept growing indefinitely, eventually yes, it would have a very real effect on Games Workshop, because if people aren't buying the models or aren't buying the rules or just illegally download it, let's say people keep buying the rules because they need them. If people stop buying the models, Games Workshop aren't going to be able to produce more models. Obviously they're making a load of money now, we won't see it for a long time, but eventually the knock-on effect will be, if everyone is playing Tabletop Simulator and not playing real Warhammer because they aren't buying models anymore, then it'll have a real knock-on effect on Games Workshop as a whole, which means eventually we won't get new rules, so we'll be stuck with like Warhammer 9th Age or whatever they call it, where it's just like the game just becomes community based and there's no new models, that's it, it's just this is the game now. This is the end because the company won't make it anymore. On the flip side though, it also allows people who don't have the expendable time or income to play Warhammer and actually like play a version of the game that is pretty close to Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and actually like try out the game. At the very least, it provides like a free version of the game to where people can play who wouldn't be able to play Warhammer otherwise, or it provides like a free version of the game to people, for new people, to like say, okay, I don't know if I want to get into this game, I don't want to spend £200 or $300 on a game that I never played before, on miniatures that I don't know. I would like to try out the game in some format and just give it a go. It's really good for like try before you buy, in terms of players being new to the game, or even people who are like testing a list or want to try out some units before they go out and buy them, which is actually a really good use for something like Tabletop Simulator. Now obviously Games Workshop don't endorse it. As I said, I don't endorse it. There's probably lots of cease and desists that are going towards these mods because they can't attack the game directly. It's the mods that are the issue. But I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, it's always going to be there because it is a thing now, you know. Another point that was raised on this one, which I thought I'd bring up, was something along the lines of the ever-evolving meta is distorted severely by TTS, and TTS is very good at taking the advantage of the short-sightedness of some 40k rules. Now this was kind of go on to say like something like, no one spams 300 Die Avengers or 30 Beasts of Nurgle due to the insane costs, and it's super healthy that the models are price gated for a lot of people. And this point I 100% don't agree with. I think whilst they're talking about short-sighted rules, I think this comment is very short-sighted in itself. This probably brings up a bigger issue of rules writing in 40k in particular, rather than with any person having any model at any time. The real issue is rules writing if that's the case. No one runs 30 Beasts of Nurgle because it's not like a guaranteed win list. It's obviously a good list, but it's not like you take this and you automatically win because it is so strong. It doesn't really win normal events where they are still happening in the world, and I don't think it's won any TTS events either. But if it was, the fact that it's so expensive shouldn't be a reason that GW don't change the rules. If it was a list that would win any event it was in, and the only reason people weren't running it is because the models were too expensive, that's a really big flaw in our rule set that we're actually playing with. If GW didn't change it because it was like, oh, it's too expensive, so we'll just leave it broken, it's a little bit daft. The game shouldn't be anywhere near like pay to win / more money equals stronger armory. Like, yes, new models will come out all the time and new models are always good. That's like how you sell models, right? But if a rule set is basically like forcing you to buy really expensive lists because the really expensive list is a lot better than a cheaper list, that's a really big flaw in the 40k rule set. Or Age of Sigmar rule set. Like, it does happen, as I said, like when new models come out, they're usually really good, and new models are usually quite expensive because they're new. But that's a little bit different to saying that like my list that costs £200 is severely underpowered compared to your list that costs £500 because you had £500 and I didn't. The models we can buy shouldn't give us an insane advantage that is so easily brought to light when money no longer becomes an issue because the person on Tabletop Simulator can run anything they like because they have access to it. Yes, 30 Beasts of Nurgle is an expensive list, but it's not exactly a meta-breaking winning list that'll win any event. It's just a strong list. It's an expensive, strong list, but the fact that there isn't any army that is like, okay, if you spend the most on this army, it will be the most broken army. That's just like not how it is, and it shouldn't be. And that shouldn't be a reason for the game being healthy, that a list is so expensive to buy that people aren't just going to buy it. Like, if a Warlord Titan was 2,000 points and the most broken thing in the game, people would go out and buy it. But it's also a really, really stupid rule set because that's the most expensive model you can buy. Also, it has its pros and cons to both. Like, there's lots of good points and lots of bad points. I just thought I'd bring up a couple. But in my opinion, like, the main pro of Tabletop Simulator is being a quick fix for people who are in lockdown and can't meet up with friends and family and actually play games in person. But in my opinion, it's just that it's like a quick fix. It's like a plaster over a bigger issue. And the biggest issue is that people are desperate for social interaction and distraction. I should be a poet. People are desperate for social interaction and distraction from the modern day world, and usually they'd use going out to play Warhammer to do that, but now they can't. So the next best thing is Tabletop Simulator, which is a passion that they share with friends or with family, that they really enjoy, a hobby they really enjoy, and a game they really enjoy. And Tabletop Simulator is one way to kind of play a game, but is it the same? Whilst TTS is likely superior competitively in terms of having access to any model at any time at the click of a button and being able to play with anyone at anywhere from any town or any city or any country anywhere in the world, is obviously a massive benefit compared to traditional Warhammer, where you're limited geographically, monetarily as well. Obviously, I've spoke about like models being too expensive and their models being expensive and obviously being good, but obviously you can't go out and buy the next best list every week. So you are limited monetarily, you're limited geographically, and you're also limited by time. But being able to play with anyone, anywhere in the world, from the comfort of your own home is a massive benefit. But I do think that Tabletop Simulator wouldn't be as half as popular as it is now if people could go out and play real games with real people in person. Because it's always been there, but obviously it's more popular right now. And I don't think that's because the competitive 40k or the competitive Age Sigmar market is moving towards there. I just think it's kind of like something that's kind of filling in whilst we can't play games. Because it'll never be that. It'll never fill the gap of going out to like your local game store to meet up with a friend, or meet up with someone you don't know but meeting new people in person. The social aspect is there in person, and you don't really get that online. It's not the same as standing across your opponent and pulling a smug grin as you roll for like 3 6s in a row or something. You'll never get that on Tabletop Simulator. You'll be able to do it, but you know, the interaction between you and your opponent will obviously be very different because you're on an online call usually, or worse, you're on a text chat, you know. And that's the other thing as well. Like, I probably speak for a lot of players. I might not do. You can always let me know down in the comments. But a lot of the hobby comes down to like the thrill of putting models down on a table that you've bought, you've built, you've painted, and laying them out on the tabletop, looking all cool, and smashing your opponent's equally amazingly painted army right into the ground and laughing while you do it. Whilst a lot of us, like myself included, whilst a lot of us enjoy competitive gaming and doing well in like tournaments or in like just regular friendly games, that my opinion, Warhammer, there's a winner and a loser, and I'd always like to be on the winning side, you know. But when we do play competitively, sometimes it does mean that we are like rush building stuff or rush painting stuff. We get some contrast out, we quickly smash it on, quickly do the base, and then we get a tabletop standard tournament ready model, you know. We've all been there. But a lot of players high up and, you know, low down in the rankings or high up in the rankings do still enjoy the thrill of bringing a painted army, putting it on the battlefield, and then doing it well with it because it's their models, you know? And that's what Warhammer has over other competitive games, or esports, for example, because we're kind of in that territory if we're talking about competitive Warhammer online on a video game. We're starting to like bounce back into that territory of being an esport, because it would just be competitive games with assets that are digital, you know. We're in esports territory. Competitive players, if you go up and say, oh, like, that's a cool model, and they've painted it themselves, they'd be like, yeah, look, I did this, I really liked it. Even if like they've speed painted it and it doesn't look very good to most people's eye, they're still proud of it, and I'm proud of them for painting their own models, you know. And I think you'll find that a lot in this sort of community, that like, even if someone wants to just win a tournament, they'll still take pride in like using their own models. They might have to borrow some off a friend, but the models they paint, they'll still be proud of them, I'm sure. And you just won't get that on Tabletop Simulator. It's just assets to be used in a game. And again, I don't think, me personally, I don't get the same thrill from Tabletop Simulator. I mean, it's fine, don't get me wrong, it does the job. It allows people to play games when they normally can't. But in my opinion, it'll never quite scratch the itch of standing across the table from a friend and rolling 3 6s. At least that's what I think. That's my opinion. It isn't the be-all end-all. It isn't the only opinion out there. So what do you think? Do you use TTS? Is it the future of competitive Warhammer? Or do you think it's pretty bad and you hate it? I mean, a lot of people when they're first playing it, that's usually the opinion they get, because it's very different to real Warhammer, and it takes a lot to learn. It's like learning a new video game. So is it the future of Warhammer, or is it just a substitute for now? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to get like a conversation going and get the chat about this. I think it's a really interesting topic, that one that's very much on a lot of people's minds, and a lot of things that people are hearing about it more and more. So let me know in the comments, and it'd be really good to chat. Otherwise, I've been Mikey. I've been your latest and best coffee buddy today, I think, probably, considering it's probably quite early. If you made it this far, then do consider liking and subscribing, because obviously you enjoyed some of the content I made, and maybe you'll enjoy the next one. So do consider hitting the like button. It really helps the video, and if you hit the subscribe button, it really helps the channel as a whole, and that'd be really cool. Otherwise, I'll be live at 2 PM today at twitch.tv/Hellstormwargaming. We're going to be playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and if not, I'll be hobbying at 6 PM GMT here on YouTube and at Twitch at the same time, and that's every Monday at 6 PM with Jay from Mohawk Miniatures, and we can have a deeper chat there. Otherwise, guys, have a great day, and bye-bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Bye-bye now.